Cintiq.
All right. Hey, how's it going, everybody? So, last time we did flatting, which is the process of kind of masking out all the main chunks in your drawing that you're going to color. And it can look crazy like this because it doesn't matter what color you choose. You just need enough contrast that you can tell where it's going to be different. So now we're going to move into the actual act of coloring. So here's our flatting. And the important thing about flatting is that it's on one layer. It's all, you don't have aliasing, so it's all like pixel on, pixel off, which means you use like the pencil tool. In the paint bucket, you turn anti-alias off. And in all the tools, you use selection tools, and otherwise you turn the aliasing off, and you just go, you know, for even the one tool for selecting. And then now it's easy to select things. You can just select anything you want, and you get a perfect selection every time. It doesn't matter about your artwork at all because this is on its own layer. So I'm just selecting this stuff. So that is the way to do this. Now that we've got that, let's talk about how do you color, okay? So here's my approach. There's many ways to do these things, but I really like this way, so check it out. So first what you do is you just duplicate this layer, boink, and call it color. Okay, so now I've got color and I've got flats. I'm gonna go to flats and immediately I am going to straight up lock this layer. So none of these other ones, just the lock. So now I can't draw on it. If I try to draw on it, it should say like, no, you can't do that. And that's what we want. So I don't want to accidentally draw on this layer ever, okay? But I do want this layer. So the layer starts off being the same thing, but it's gonna change. So we need to keep this, and I'll show you why as we go along. So the first thing that we're gonna do is grab our paint bucket and pick some colors that are a little bit more reasonable for all these things. So I'm going to just pick some colors sort of as I go along here, sort of ad-lib what I feel like is going to be good for this shot. Some people like to set up swatches in advance or a little color sheet. I don't like to do that. I don't like swatches. But what I will do is I'll draw out little color palettes for myself on a separate layer and use those. But for now, I'm just going to go by eye, so to speak. So the deer is going to be, you know, brownish, but it's going to be in a certain light. So the first thing I actually want to pick is the sky color. And actually this isn't half bad. The script says that this is kind of getting on in the day because they say that, okay, well, you know, you might not have time to get this deer back to the tribe. So that means it has to be later in the day. So I'm going to try to go like not full evening, but sort of heading into that. So maybe the sky does have some color in it, you know, and maybe those rosy pink ones ain't so bad. Maybe that's not a bad way to approach this, kind of like later on in the day. So let's try some things. So like, it could be like that, where it's like fading light heading into a sunset. That might be too late though. Let's just try like a bright orange sky like this. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that. Let's go a little bit yellower. Good. So it's like getting on in the day. It's getting kind of late. So the reason I'm doing that, like at the golden hour, right? Maybe even a little bit more yellow. Now the reason I'm doing the sky first is because this is going to set the tone for my lighting, since this is an outdoor scene and it's going to affect these other colors. So if you think in your brain like, forest equals green, and then you put like that kind of green, it's going to look hideous because yes, trees are green, but there's a lot of different kinds of green, and this like kind of high punch green doesn't really happen in nature too often. So what I'm going to think is it's like cool firs and pines and that kind of stuff, so it's going to be bluer in the green spectrum and bluer, but then there's going to be yellow from the sky. So the yellow will push it back this way. So I would have gone down here. Now I'm going to come back here, and then it's not going to be nearly so bright. It's going to be way less saturated, and it's going to be darker. Okay. So somewhere's in there. Now you're maybe saying, but that's blue. But trust me on this. These are just the base colors. We're going to be adding, you know, shadows and tints and other things to this. But you don't want to just think like tree equals brown stump and green leaves, and then like pick like, you know, paint primary colors. There's a lot you can do with color. So I'm gonna, like a blue like that. I could go a little bit more green and maybe a little bit richer. That could be good. I kind of like that, but it's too rich, so I'm going to go back here. And again, because my paint bucket is the anti-alias is off, and because I'm working on this color layer, which is a copy of our flats, this is really easy to do. I can change the colors without losing any quality. Okay, so that's nice. These mountains up here, though, this isn't. I'm not going to make them brown. I'm going to make them like a deep orange, maybe even purple. Let's try. Sometimes I got to try stuff to see it. Let's see what we got. So that's kind of cool. I do like that. By the way, only the mountains are brown. So if I uncheck contiguous, I can just fill one of them and it'll fill all of them. That's useful. So I like this. So it's browner because it's got the yellow in it. So that feels pretty good to me. And then this carpet down here is like greenery and grasses and different things. So let's make this sort of a yellowy green and then kind of desaturate it. So let's see what we get here. That's a little bit too dark. I like the direction that's going, but it's too dark. So let's brighten it up better. And then this one that's closer to us, let's go even a little bit brighter on. So let's go a little bit yellower and a little bit brighter. And then let me put that contiguous on. I was going to say kill the contiguous, but actually add the contiguous, so you can have this one here. So now what's cool is I've already changed this from what it was because I've split it out into another section, and I can do that because I'm on my own layer here. So here on the flats, they're the same color, but on my color layer, I can start to break stuff out. So as we go along, this color layer here is going to diverge and become more and more different from the one underneath. But this one will always stay the same because this one we will use for selection, okay? That becomes really important when you're doing shadows and painting and stuff. Okay, so I'm liking the direction of this. Now let's get our deer, our buck. So our buck should be some kind of grayish brown somewheres in there, right? But we got this golden sky, so let's punch this towards like a yellow and a little bit richer to indicate that it's being caught in the light. And that's okay, but it's way too dark, so let's punch it way up here. That's better, but now here I'm having another problem. There's not enough contrast between this grass here and the doe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it towards orange a little bit more, and I'm going to push it darker. Because here's the thing about color. You have to make choices also based on like, contrast and what's going to make something pop out. So it's just too much color. It's too much saturation. So I want something more like that. And then just because I can, let's try something. Let's compare that to a really dark one, right? So that pops the buck out a lot better, but it's a little bit too dark in my opinion. This one, we can go the other way, pops the buck out a little bit, but bucks don't come in that color usually. So let's go just medium dark. I kind of like that. Maybe this is just, it's got a dark coloring, that can happen. So I can play with that. Even go a little bit more red. So little bit in there, yellowing. Good, I like it. Okay, so let's get those buck's horns in there. They're gonna be also affected by the yellow light, and they're gonna be in there somewhere. So that looks good to me. This bush, that was a randomly chosen color, so let's change that. The rocks were randomly chosen, the water. So let's think. So water, the thing about water is not blue, water is reflective, so water often reflects the blue sky, but it doesn't really have a color. So what we're gonna see when we see water is we're gonna see through it, and we're gonna see the earth underneath it, the water, as it goes down and then touches the riverbed. So we'll see the riverbed color, and we'll also see the reflection of the sky color. So the best place to start with water is to hit your sky color actually, and then darken it, because you're gonna see, through the water and also see this dark riverbed. So darken the sky color and then start with that as your watercolor. So I'm gonna turn that contiguous thing off so it'll just hit all the water in one go. Boom. So that looks rad. I like that. It's a little bit, this looks pretty dusky, and it's supposed to be later on in the day, but this looks pretty late in the day. It's kind of cool though. I kind of dig it, but let's see if we can get away with this. Well, let me just push this a little bit, this water, because I want it to be, that's rich. It's pretty good. I want actually, let's go brighter with it. Maybe I went too dark. Looks pretty cool. Looks pretty neat, actually. I kind of like this. I think we're going to just like make this big, rich, golden light scene. You know, you can really tell that the day is ending and they really have to get back. Okay, so don't feel constrained by like, oh, it's water, it has to be blue. Oh, it's a tree, it has to be green. You gotta be more open about color, in my opinion. But everyone has their own style with color, so you gotta find it. Okay, all right, so now this bush actually kind of looks like it's the right color now, but let's just make it a little bit greener and pull it down from the saturation that it was. That is too light, but I like that direction. That's pretty good. It's like just like rushes in there. Let's just make this a little bit more green even and come in here and see what we get. Yeah, kind of like, yeah, I like that better. All right, cool. So now we've got rushes in the grass. Now we've got our rocks. The rocks too, I'm going to make sure contiguous is off so I can just hit all these rocks in one go. I actually don't mind this color. Here's the thing, rocks are gray, right? Rocks are not gray, because if I just go like that, it looks terrible. Nothing is like pure gray in real life, because everything has light bouncing off of it. So even if the color of the rock was gray or even white, it's going to pick up the sky's color, so in the sunlight, right? So it's not going to be pure gray ever, because they're going to move into here. And then rocks are usually not gray. They're, you know, if you look at them, they're blue and pink and purple and browns and, you know, all kinds of colors. So I don't know if this is granite or whatever, and I'm not going to go, you know, see how much of the rock in Yosemite is igneous. That's too much work. But I am going to take a guess that since these mountains are made out of this color, that these rocks might be in that kind of that purpley family, and then we'll push it towards yellow. So maybe they'll be in the red-orange family. And let's see how that looks. That looks better. And then they're wet rocks, so they're going to be a lot darker. That looks okay, except for now we're getting a contrast issue where this rock looks pretty similar to the buck. So I want to avoid that. So I'm going to go either towards yellow or towards purple. So yellow is okay. I think that would work out. That's decent. But let's go towards purple and see what happens, because then they'll look like kind of like the mountains a little bit. That's not bad. Let's drop down the saturation a lot. That's kind of fun. I don't know. I'm playing with this. Gotta play with stuff. I think that looks okay. You know, I think that looks kind of neat. Let's drop the saturation a tad and darken it even more. Nah, let's go here. Good. I like that. Okay. So now we have this basic scene set up, and now that we do have it set up, it's pretty easy to grab the colors from here and pop them into here, right? So there's that, and I can grab the horns here and put them there. But also, just because this guy is these colors in this panel doesn't mean he has to be these colors in this panel, right? Like maybe he's moved his head and he's catching the light differently. So keep that in mind. But for now, this is going to be fine. And remember, our watercolor isn't blue, so I'm not going to make this water blue. I'm going to make it the color of the water. Okay, and then the sky is similar to this watercolor, but you can see it's not. It's different. Okay, so and then just because I want this water to stand out more, even though the river is this color here, I'm going to actually I'm going to darken that even more. So I can, oh, careful here. So I painted these the same colors. So now if I do the contiguous, not contiguous thing, you can see what happens. So if I hit this now, it's painting the whole thing, not just this panel. The easy way around that is make a selection and also leave the contiguous unchecked. Now it will just paint these and it won't paint the ones down here, but I don't have to individually go paint, 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 paint. Okay? So there's a couple tips there. If you turn off the aliasing, anti-aliasing stuff, and you just use the selection tools and the paint bucket, there's an awful lot you can do just in that. So now I would say that we kind of have this thing worked out pretty well. One thing that I don't like though is that I have the sky color here is now exactly the same as this sky color, and that's even another problem because when I change the sky color, it's going to change in both. What I want to do is I want to think of the background here. So hit this background, and let me just get a good selection on that. There we go. So I want to think of this background more as like what's behind him from this angle, which would mean that kind of like this grass and stuff is probably what's behind him. So maybe I can do that as a good way to make that easy. And again, the reason I don't have to fill like here and then fill here and then fill here and then fill here is because I made a selection and then I had contiguous unchecked. And now it's just going to fill everything that's color, that is that color. I can talk. That is that color that's also within this selection. So that's a really good shortcut. There's a lot of times when I uncheck contiguous. That's very helpful. Okay, so that's kind of okay. And then you can see that this forest or even the hills might be in the background, in here somewhere. So we can add to this background. So this background seems kind of boring. So why don't we add to it? So this is where it's fun. So you can see that we've already changed quite a lot. So we've just done this flats for the selections. And then now we have, colors that feel a lot more like what our comic is going to feel like. And then you can change the selections. So for instance, I'm going to add this forest color behind him somewhere. So let's add that. So let's grab this selection here of this green, right? And then we'll grab the pencil tool, which is, again, just the on-off pixels. And then we can just draw in, a line where we want that forest to begin. Contiguous. I just got to check contiguous because this is all selected. So it's going to fill the same color. So check it on for this one. Cover that up. Cover all these up. Boom. Okay, good. Now I can uncheck that because I have a different color. Okay, so I can do that. And so now you can see I can start to get the forest. And then maybe I want to get even another thing. Maybe I want to get the a mountainscape back behind this forest, right? So I can go like this and make forest selection, something that makes sense. And then again, contiguous, fill all those, fill all that in. Okay, good. Now I have a better mask. And check that. So now with my pencil, I can clean that up. I can draw exactly what I want, make it pretty. But I'm making the complexities of the background as I want them. Now that I'm seeing a little bit more information, and this isn't in my flats, but the cool thing is I can always go back to my flats if I end up not liking this. So, all right. So this is cool. I'm just going to kind of back and forth carve this for some trees, a little bit of tree effect. Good. There you go. There's some trees there. There. Okay, good. So now you can see I've kind of created a whole simple scene back here without much effort, just because I have my selections all set up. So I really recommend taking the time to do the selections right. And then when you come back in here to fix stuff, it's just going to be so much easier. All right. So, okay. So that's cool. Now, I think we're ready to actually get in here and start doing some painting. So some comics are printed this way and you're done. Boom, ship it, right? Crop it and ship. But most comics have some shading. And so there's a ton of ways to do shading. And I want to cover some of those. So a lot of what creates, a lot of how you approach shading has to do with your style and the style of the comic. But there are some good practices because, again, you're looking for something that's fast and efficient, gets the job done, doesn't make, files that are a billion megabytes each, and something where you can, maybe fix something if something goes wrong. So those are kind of my criteria for a good system for coloring. I'll show you some of my favorites, and I'll show you a couple of different styles so you can see that there is more than one way to do these things. But I'm going to show you a couple of my favorites, and I think I might do that in the next video. I'm going to see what time we're at here. Let me check, and we'll see if we want to put this in another video. Maybe we will.
Yamsketch.